somebody sitting next to you, actually.
That sounds like Star Trek.
Yeah, as long as you don't see Klingons up here, you're all good.
David, I have another question for you, which is leeway or drift. You didn't discuss it, but when going from true to compass, is that in your true versions makes
Ian, your
so is it or subtract?
Your leeway is not actually included in that calculation, because, as I said, when we did the leeway, when we spoke about leeway a couple of weeks ago, leeway is such an inaccurate, number. The only way to accurately calculate your leeway is with a course over ground and a course through the water. But if you're taking compass calculations, you wouldn't put leeway into it. That would be part of your navigation side of it rather than your calculation to a compass course. So if you're doing a route, say, between A and B, you would calculate the compass course that is true. You would then take your variation deviation into it. You would have a compass course that you'd steer by compass. You would then plot as you go, and you'd say, okay, I'm getting a leeway, or I'm being moved off course by X amount. Let me recalculate my compass course for the helmsman. You wouldn't pre-calculate your leeway in that respect. That's the navigation side of it as opposed to the preparation side. Remember, your compass is where your boat is actually pointing. That's your compass course. And your true is where it would, like on a chart for the same course. That's not affected by leeway. Leeway is an effect of the ocean on you. So you'd calculate your leeway post, or you could throw it in and say, okay, I'm expecting to have 5 degrees leeway. So I would change my initial planned course for that 5 degrees, and then I'd calculate my compass course accordingly. Does that answer your question there, Ian?
Yeah, it does, but I mean, like order of magnitude, leeway, I always think of like 10 degrees. It obviously depends on the point of sail, but to go from true to the compass heading that you're telling the helmsman to actually navigate to, if you want to get from A to B, you need to combine all of that, in my mind.
Yeah. So if you now know you're on a full beat, you'd say, okay, I'm going to take it into account. I know I've done a couple of plots. I know that I'm losing about 10 degrees for my course. So you'd move your initial planned course by your leeway. Then you'd do your compass calculations. Your leeway is like prior to doing a compass calculation. So if you've got your Portland plotter on your chart, say, for instance, and you want to do a course of 180 degrees, and you know you're being knocked off one way or the other, so you'd say, okay, I'm going to do a course of sort of 170 or 190, and then I do my compass calculation on top of that.
Yeah, but I hear you, but I think if you to correct for deviation, for example, the leeway part needs to be at the end if you go from true to compass, or am I thinking of that incorrectly?
Depending on which way you're doing it. But if you've got compass course on your boat, your compass, all you're working out on your compass is the true, the magnetic, and the compass. Those are the compass calculations as a whole. What other influences happen outside that? You might be sailing in tide, for instance, okay, which is then the boat is going to be moving off course, but that's a tidal calculation. Now, when we start going through tides and tidal calculations next week, you'll notice that we take heavily tide into account first, then we do courses accordingly. So your compass is a contained thing, and then all the other influences, you would then have to pre-take those into account before you take a compass calculation. I don't feel like I'm explaining this like particularly well.
No, you did it wrong.
You can't sort of say, okay, your your compass course changes according to your leeway because your heading remains the same. Your boat might be being moved by tide or by leeway or all outside external current, but it doesn't change your compass calculations, if you know what I mean.
Great.
Okay. Any other queries? Just a question, just to throw out there, of the boat owners, how many of them actually know what the deviation is, deviation cards? Have they actually got deviation cards for their boats?
I'd love to hear that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In my previous boats, I've always had a deviation chart card. On the current boat, there is a deviation chart. When last it's been updated, of course, is debatable, but it shouldn't change if nothing is physically changed on the boat.
Yeah, if you haven't changed the engine or you haven't made major electrical changes to the boat, it should still be pretty accurate, Peter. It's spot on. My favorite cock-up with a compass ever was, I don't know if you guys know the big old wooden boat, the Howard Davis, that sits in the waterfront. I was taking her across the Atlantic with students, and I just happened to be got up at 1 o'clock in the morning and happened to look at our position and where they were going. And I'm like, where are we going? So I come up on deck and I'm about to say to the guys, where are we going? And the guys had put a nice big speaker, Bluetooth speaker next to their compass and were sailing 20, 30 degrees off course. They were literally going the wrong way because of a speaker that they put by the compass. So it's a common error, that one, especially now with these Bluetooth speakers. People dangle them onto the binnacles. Any other questions? Nice, easy one tonight. Not difficult. Compasses aren't difficult.
Thanks, Wavy. That was awesome. I've got to go back to my risotto.
Thank you.
I've got one information. I'm having a steel boat day off, more than Cape Town, and I'm having a deviation card made by Fox and Eastman CC, based in Cape Town. The work was done by Captain Chorney, C-Z-O-R-N-E-J, by just adjusting the magnets inside the compass. On the steel boat, I'm having 0 deviation. I think I can recommend this way. It doesn't cost a fortune, and until now, I've got a peace of mind. Obviously, you know, now after 10 years, I will have to repeat the procedure because, you know, things are changing. Take it under consideration. Maybe it's the easiest way because everything is done inside the compass. I don't have to calculate anything. Deviation is 0 and finish and plan.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you can get your magnet, your compass swung, get your deviation, and then they're called swinging magnets, and you actually put them, they surround the inside of your compass, you can get your deviation down to 0. You find that most big ships, they've had their compasses swung that way. So their compasses are spot on accurate.
That is what I decided to do, simply.
Yeah. The other thing is some of the more modern flux gates compasses. You can take your deviation and then you can program into it what your deviation is. So you can take your deviation card, program into the electronic compass and tell it at 0 degrees, that's what your deviation is, and so on and so forth. So your flux gate compass, you can very quickly do a calculation and then program it to have 0 deviation. So no, it's a very good way to go, and it makes life a lot easier than to drop the deviation out of the
The
equation.
fiddling with the compass magnets is a very tricky thing, you know. This guy did it in half an hour, you know, he knows by heart, you know, what the beings are on the major things in Cape Town. It took half an hour and has zero deviation, you know, by adjusting the magnets inside my compass, the ship compass.
That's the skill of it, because if you put one magnet one side, then it adjusts the other bearings.
Yeah, that's it.
So they're not
so I didn't dare to try it on my own, right? Okay.
I wouldn't try it on my own, I'll be quite honest.
Yeah.
I'm doing a deviation card, but I don't know if I'm playing with magnets at this stage.
Adjusting is bloody difficult.
Yeah, exactly. It's a skill. It's a real skill.
It's an art. Thank you very much, Wavy.
Oh, no, pleasure. Okay. Any other queries, comments?
That was great, Wavy. Well done.
Pleasure, Al. I hope you guys are finding this sort of thing useful. I mean, it's not a full course or anything. It's just, you know, nice little reminders of how things work and you know, what happens on board and the basis and the backgrounds for navigation. I'm assuming that we've still got a number of people coming on a Wednesday that you guys are finding it reasonably useful anyway.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Well done. Well done.
Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate it.
Okay, so it's now that time to go and get a beer, I think.
Now that we can.
Now that we can, exactly.
Thank you.
Wavy, I'm going to end it.
Okay,
I want to have a drink with Wavy, man.
Well, Zoom on your own.
He probably wants to go home.
I'm at home, but I want to have a normal evening, please. I had Alan last night, and I've got him again tonight. Now I want a normal evening.
Gregory, I just want to tell you, your boat's still fine, moored right next to mine. It's perfectly fine.
I think he's logged off already.
Oh, he's there. I can see him.
Yeah.
You're joking. Still at home.
He has to have 100 fenders on his port, on his starboard side, because Al parks.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And Greg, bigger fenders on there if I was you, you know, like some really big orange. I've seen him.
All right, that's great. Thanks very much, Wavy. Well done. Well done, Kerry. Thank you.
Pleasure. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks.
See you next
I don't see you before.
Bye. Go well. Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Cheers, all. Thanks, Kerry.
Pleasure.